Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dial It Up. Hello, and welcome to Dial It Up, the All-NBA podcast. We got a fun Thursday episode for you. I'm Evan Dyal, joined by Ryan Kavanaugh. We have a guest today. We're bringing on Ryan Magdziarz, former friend of the show, and now friend of our new format. We'll talk some Thunder and Melo with him. But first, we'll get into the current NBA news. First, Dwayne Wade, the Flash, is going to Cleveland. Not surprising, but it's official now. 1 year, $2.3 million deal to be reunited with his friend LeBron James. Personally, this move doesn't really change anything. Cleveland will still win the East and still lose to the Warriors, but it should have a few more alley-oops during the season, which will be fun. But bigger news, breaking news that just happened today. So the commissioner, Adam Silver, passed down legislation reform that the lottery, starting in the 2019 draft, will be a different format. So basically how it works is the three worst teams in the league now have an equal 14% chance of getting the number one overall pick, compared to what is now is the worst team has 25, then 19, then 14, I think. So now they each have 14. So basically its idea is to take away tanking. So now you have even a less chance to get the number one overall pick, even if you have the worst record. So teams will play their hardest and try to be competitive throughout the season. I'm a fan of it. I think it's a good rule, and they adjusted the lottery without completely getting rid of it. I think it was a good move. And then the other big thing is Adam Silver can pass on fines to teams or players for resting. There's no resting during national TV games. If players do rest, they encourage to do it at home on the road. They want other fans to see when LeBron comes to town, Durant comes to town, stuff like that. So now there will be more consequences for resting. And look at teams like the Warriors, who half their games are on national TV. We'll see all their stars in that game. We won't have that disaster game with the Warriors Spurs last year where it was the Bees versus the Bees.
Right. And hopefully we won't have those annoying Twitter people that are like, oh, I traveled 400 miles. It took my son to see LeBron play. He didn't play. Shut up.
Right. Yeah, no. Stop complaining. This should help it, though. I think both good reforms by the commissioner. So good moves. All right, now we'd like to bring on Ryan Magdziarz, recurring guest of Dial It Up from SirCharlesInCharge.com. Ryan, how are you doing today, buddy?
Awesome, Evan. Good to be back here on the Dial It Up podcast.
We're glad to have you. So first, how have you enjoyed this wild NBA offseason? It's been pretty mind-blowing, wouldn't you say?
It's been amazing, mind-blowing to say the least. In my short time watching, covering the NBA, this is by far my favorite offseason that there's ever been.
Agreed. It's definitely the most fun offseason. So
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the freshest move of the crazy offseason, Carmelo Anthony going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. When you saw the news, your first thoughts, and how do you think Melo will fit in with the Thunder?
My first thought was about time. I didn't necessarily know which team he would be going to, but I love the fit in OKC. I think they have a really good balance of defense and offense in their starting five. I know Russ at the one is not going to be playing like he was last year with the ball-dominant triple-double average. He's going to have to share the ball with PG-13 and Melo now, which I think is a great thing. And then having Roberson and Steven Adams in the starting five when they don't necessarily need the ball to be effective, I think is a really good balance.
I mean, I totally agree. I love the fit, and I, like you, just wanted him to get out of New York so badly.
Yes.
It was like that couple that stays together forever and all your friends hate it.
They just need to move on. Yeah, I mean, for both sides even. Melo getting a fresh start with not being the guy that everybody relies on. I think Olympic Melo got so much attention and so much publicity because he was productive, because he wasn't the guy. He was able to run the offense with LeBron and whoever else on the Olympic team. and then just make his open shots as like the third or fourth option, which I think is exactly what he's going to be doing in Oklahoma City. And the other side of it in New York with Kristaps, he's finally going to get the keys to the car and run his own show there.
Right. I think it's definitely a win-win as well.
Ryan, hi, Ryan here. Can you just give me your thoughts on the Thunder's offseason as a whole? Like, did you expect any of this to happen with like Paul George, now Melo coming here? Did this come out of nowhere for you, or do you expect Sam Presti to pull off some wizardry?
Sam Presti is a wizard, so I can't say that I'm totally surprised. I was surprised in how many superstars they got, which, I mean, 2 superstars in one offseason. Granted, Melo, you could teeter either way as a superstar label. I mean, he wasn't what he used to be. But still, a big, big name in Melo. And I think Paul George is still a superstar. He's a great two-way guy. Overall, I think the OKC offseason was a solid A grade. Great offseason. I think they got more versatile. And today's day and age in positionless basketball, with two-way wings being like the main emphasis, I think getting Melo, who will play the 4, the stretch 4, and PG-13, who can guard anybody on Golden State, which is who everybody's shooting for, is a really good upgrade. Anytime you can swap Depot, Sabonis, Cantor, who was making $17 million, and Dougie McBuckets for Paul George and Melo, I think that's an amazing start.
It's absolutely incredible what they turned to get 2 stars. I'm the biggest Paul George guy there is. I think when he's locked in, he's an absolute force.
Yes.
And then I love Melo at the 4. And then also they got the plus-minus king of the world, Patrick Patterson.
Yeah, hey, not to mention, I highlighted that also. Patrick Patterson's not to be slept on. They had some 3-point deficiency issues last year, which I think Patterson comes in and helps that. A lot of half-court set, pick-and-pop opportunities for Patrick Patterson. Raymond Felton is a more than equitable point guard not that Russell needs any help getting breathers because he's a machine. So if he does end up coming out of the game at all, Felton can fill that plug right there. And then a lot of guys are kind of sleeping on Terrence Ferguson, their rookie. I really think that he has potential to be good. 6'7", long, two-way guy that has incredible athleticism.
I thought the Knicks would have pushed harder to include him in the deal for Melo, but they're the Knicks.
Yeah.
They wanted that Enes Kanter contract.
And that 2018 second rounder.
Yeah, we did that exercise for Sir Charles in Charge on we got to take over a franchise, and I was the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I was trying so hard to get rid of Enes Kanter in that contract. $17 million is too much money.
I'm sorry I had to turn you down. But you get it, though.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I don't blame you,
And I get why you tried.
You're smarter than the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks took the bait on 17 mil.
Oh, my God. They're unbelievable. So, okay, let's talk before Melo got there. Where did you see Oklahoma City finishing in the West?
This was interesting and really good timing on your part because I just sat down to do my Western Conference playoff picture yesterday, actually. And, it's a dogfight. There are going to be some good teams that are left out of the Western Conference playoffs. Oklahoma City is not one of them, however. Before Melo, I had them around the 4 seed. I think PG-13 and Russ would kind of be a poor man's KD and Russ, what they were before, but still very, very competitive. After Melo, I think to the regular season, it's not as much emphasis as the postseason. Regular season, I think it boosts some, 4 or 5 more wins, which could be a seed up here and there, maybe a 3 seed with Melo. But I think the real impact is going to be his leadership and experience in the playoffs. I think that Oklahoma City is going to benefit a lot come postseason time.
Yeah, it didn't move the needle like a ton for me. I had him at the 4 before Melo, and I think they'll still probably be the 4 seed, maybe the 3. But it's just, I think in the playoffs, I agree, you'll see his value more, and they'll just be an absolutely super tough out.
Yeah, so if you have them at the 4, who is your 2, 3, 5?
Okay, so 2, I have Houston. 3 the Spurs, and I consider moving the Thunder past the Spurs now, but the Spurs are so Spurs.
Yeah.
I count the Spurs out every year and underestimate them. And
I know. I made that mistake before that I'm just like, I'm not going to do it this year, and then watch them be like the 6th seed this year.
Yeah, it happens.
And then 5, a Thunder 4, and then 5, I have the Timberwolves.
So yeah, I like that. I got a little greedy and high on the T-Wolves. I moved the T-Wolves up to 3. I think they're going to even pass up their expectations. I know they got I think Jimmy Butler's going to just help out Cat and Wiggins defensively so much, and that's the one thing that they need to take a giant leap.
I like that. That's bold, but I like bold.
It's very bold, and I don't usually count or put all my eggs in one basket with young teams and inexperienced teams, but I'm feeling ballsy about these T-Wolves this year.
So you had the OKC at 4 before, and where do you have them now?
I just swapped them and the T-Wolves after Melo, so it'll be
okay.
3, T-Wolves 4, and I have our old-ass Spurs 5, but Pop once again is probably going to make me look like a moron.
I know. I just hate picking it. It just feels just so risky.
It does.
Okay, so the other looming question I think is OKC is that Paul George is there, for maybe just 1 year, and I wonder, do you think his looming free agency causes any distractions or problems or anything like that during the season?
Yeah, that's also a good question. Before, I would have said yeah. During his whole drama in this offseason about how he was so dead set for LA in a year, I was thinking surely whatever team gets him is going to just get a rental and he won't be that into it. But now looking at OKC and the roster they kind of created, how they're jumping up the Western Conference in predictions and adding Melo, who is older than him, wiser than him, and can teach him some things on growing up, teaming up with the former league MVP. I think that if OKC has a successful season, that this might entice him to stay in Oklahoma City. Granted, the city of Oklahoma City is nothing like LA. The nightlife's not there. The Hollywood superstars aren't there. But basketball is basketball. If you're going to be successful this year, I think it might entice him to stay.
I think there's a trend now that players aren't really that interested in playing in LA and New York as much as they used to be, because now they just want a good basketball team. They don't care about the nightlife necessarily anymore.
Right, yeah. And also I think these guys have so much freedom in the off season and are so buddy-buddy with each other all the time that, they're flying to LA just on weekends.
Just get a summer home there.
Days that they have breaks and stuff.
Easy.
Yeah, so I think the Melo thing, it helps increase the chances Paul George stays, and Westbrook, for that matter, as well. I think he'll be there for the long term just because he's just so loved there and he's the guy.
Oh, he is the man in Oklahoma City.
Right, yeah. He could be the mayor there when everything's done. But, so the other question I wanted to ask...
Sorry.
Concern.
What is the biggest concern for Oklahoma City this year?
Well, I think there are two things. Before I start on the big concerns, I think they already reached one concern, which was three-point shooting. I think they were a really bad three-point shooting team last year.
Horrible.
Yeah, they got PG-13, who can bust it from 39% clip from three. I think Abrinas will take a step up. He shot 38% from three last year.
I like
Go ahead.
I like Abrinas.
I honestly do too. I think he's slept on a little bit. I think he's going to be really productive off the bench this year. Your boy Patrick Patterson, a pick and pop threat. You got to guard him out there, 37% from three. Melo, he's spotty. He shoots so much that his percentage is not as high as you'd like to see it, but we have no doubt that he can knock down threes. So I think they already touched on a big concern, three-point shooting, but the two things remaining. One thing I'm worried about is sharing the ball. You got, obviously, the big three there now with Melo, PG-13, and Russ. They were the guy on their teams just last year, and they were so ball dominant. They're going to go through some growing pains and finding each other's playing style and how they can work together to just not be forcing shots because their teammates can't get any shots, because all three of them are terrific playmakers in getting their own shots. And the second thing I would say is a concern is efficiency. Russ, maybe the worst part about his game last year is he forced everything. Granted, he had to do everything. He shot 24 times a game last year and only shot 42%. So, go ahead.
I mean, it's just exhausting to hear that stat.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, you watched him. Everybody who had League Pass watched him. Russ was a triple-double machine, but the Oklahoma City Thunder were the Oklahoma City Russell Westbrooks. It sucked to watch, but Melo, same thing. In New York, he averaged 19 field goal attempts a game and only shot 43%. PG-13, not so much, just a step down, 18 field goal attempts. But Miles Turner he was good, but he wasn't an offensive superstar like PG-13 was. So all three of them are going to have to kind of cut their touches in half and share the ball with each other. So I think their efficiency will go up, but it'll just be something to keep your eye on.
It'll be fascinating to see the usage numbers for those three and how they make a plan to work. And how much more, Westbrook gets 10 assists, but he passes like a total of like 15 times a game.
Right, yeah. Those two are going to boost up shooting percentages like crazy. And you're right. Russ's shots may be cut in half, but his assists, I don't think necessarily will take a drop much.
Yeah, his assists should. If you got Melo and Paul George as your catch and shoot options, you should have really good assist numbers.
Last year they both finished inside the top 10 for catch and shoot percentage, so that says a lot. I think.
Yeah. That is good. But what I don't want to see this year out of them is whoever brings the ball up is just going to ISO. I would hate to see that. I want to see them kind of work the ball around, get people cutting and moving in motion, and not necessarily be so much of an ISO team, which I'm kind of scared that those three might be.
Right, and they're transforming their offense on the fly. Last year, just Westbrook and just everyone else just crashed the glass, basically. And now you got shooting, but the passing. Paul George is a pretty good passer, and I'd like to see him run some secondary pick and rolls a little bit more. But the Melo thing, that's interesting, how much he's going to pass, and same with Westbrook.
It is interesting. I have faith in Billy Donovan and that he can make it all work, but I don't think that, besides KD and Russ, I don't know if he's had three of these big name, big profile guys that he's had to kind of mold to fit into one offense.
Yeah, it'll be tough to deal with, but I'm glad they're getting Melo to play the 4 because it's what he should play, especially on defense. And if they all buy in, this could really work. One other little concern I have is if Steven Adams gets hurt, they're pretty thin up front.
Yeah, they just got rid of Sabonis too.
Right, so he's pretty big for them. You
know what though? They got a sleeper on the bench. The guy I'm in love with. The Nick Collison farewell tour is this year.
Yes. Let's go.
His last year as a pro. It's going to be a wild ride. So, hey, if Steven Adams does get hurt, knock on wood, they got a very, very solid backup in Nick Collison.
He was Patrick Patterson before Patrick Patterson. The plus
He's
minus king.
Kansas Jayhawk legend.
Oh, wow. That's a good... Wow, I totally forgot. I'm more excited for that now. He was a waste on the bench.
Yes, he was.
All right, final question. Hypothetical. The Thunder play the Warriors in the playoffs. How long does the series go?
I thought long and hard about this. And since this is an OKC podcast, I really want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I don't know if I can. Golden State is just absolutely stacked. And I'm looking at the matchups, and they have an answer for everybody. Westbrook and Steph, I would say, both aren't crazy defensive players. I think that's kind of a push. Paul George is going to be matched up with KD, and KD is an absolute monster. I think KD is only going to get better and better. Draymond and Melo, defensively, Draymond demolishes him. But, if I had to put a number on it, gun to my head, I say the Warriors sweep again, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunder could sneak one quadruple overtime game at home.
I will, too, give the Thunder a game in this hypothetical series. Roberson and Patrick Patterson are pretty good Warrior kind of defenders with their ability to switch. Same with Paul George. So I think they could throw in some, I won't say a good anti-Warrior lineup, but like a solid one.
Yeah.
But, man, the Warriors now, and they're just even deeper with more shooting with Caspian Young. It's 5 max.
Yep, I agree. I'm not even close to giving them 6 games at all. Now that the pressure of them being all together and winning their first championship is over, it's kind of terrifying. Like, now it's just downhill. Now they don't have to worry about anything. They know they've done it. They know they can do it. And it scares me that they're just going to take over and do it again and again and again.
I'm scared too. Having said that, so if OKC gets one, is there another team in the West you think would push the Warriors further? Or a more competitive 5?
What'd you say?
Or maybe not further, but just a more competitive 5-game series.
Yeah, I don't think the T-Wolves are ready for that yet. I think they're too young and inexperienced and not even close to good enough defensively.
Agreed.
I'm really interested in the Spurs. I mean, they were one Zaza cheap shot away from making that series really interesting last season. And I know I just bashed them for being old asses and whatever, but Pop is Pop. I mean, he's going to implement a system for their players to follow. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if Rudy Gay can bounce back from injury and be effective in the lineup. I'd like to see a Kawhi, Rudy Gay, LaMarcus Aldridge lineup starting there in San Antonio. So maybe San Antonio, and also really interested to see Chris Paul and James Harden running that pick and roll ball handler Phil guy offense with playmakers on the floor no matter what. That's going to be a great thing to watch.
If I had to say the team that would give the Warriors the toughest time, I would pick the Rockets. And mainly because they added P.J. Tucker and Luke Richard Mamute. And they also got Clint Capella as a good rim protector, Tariq Black is a solid defender, and Chris Paul is obviously a tenacious defender. I think they've got the most versatility and flexibility in their lineups that they could hang with the Warriors a bit. But also on the downside, they still have Ryan Anderson, which is terrifying.
I'm glad that you said that. They went out and made it a goal of theirs to get more versatile. And P.J. Tucker and Luke Mbamute definitely do that. If you want to beat the Warriors, you have to have long, athletic wings that can guard. No, you're not going to just put anybody on KD and Clay. I mean, those two will be bruisers. I wouldn't be surprised if down the stretch in clutch times when they need to stop, that they might start P.J. Tucker at the 4, or they may play Luke Richard Mbamute at the 4 instead of Ryan Anderson because he can't guard anyone.
Yeah, I could see a lot of times where they play Tucker, Mamute, and Ariza with just one of Harden and Paul, and maybe Capella at the 5.
Right, yeah, I like that lineup.
Yeah, just try to get super defensive and be scrappy. But all of that sounds nice, but that's probably a win in Game 3 at Houston.
Yeah, we're on Fantasy Island right now. I don't know if anybody's going to step in front of the Golden State Warriors this year.
Right. They're so good, but that being said, it was still a super fun offseason, and the season is only 20 days away. How excited are you right now?
I cannot believe that. I've been counting down the days and just trying to get by with, media day and inching closer and closer to actual gameplay. I know they have a preseason game here in Kansas City at the Sprint Center every year, and this year it's the 76ers versus the Miami Heat. And I'm going to that game on the 13th of October, and that is going to be my first taste of NBA action.
There you go.
Awesome. Yeah, and what I also love about the whole Melo thing Thunder is they open the season at the Knicks.
That's amazing.
That is incredible. The NBA is incredible.
That's just awesome. And then plus you have the Boston-Cleveland game with Kyrie. Opening night will just be great.
So how do you think that's going to fare out? The game 1, very first game, you think LeBron and Kyrie are going to speak and be boys or what?
Oh, God. It's only going to be tense.
I think there's going to be a moment right before the game. They're going to have that for the cameras, hello. And then after the rest of the game, he's just going to go after Kyrie.
I hope so. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think they'll acknowledge each other and do the when you see your ex in the street hug.
Yeah.
One of those.
Me too. But I'm hoping LeBron is just on a mission this year.
Yeah, I still have Cleveland. Cleveland will win the East. Even though, did you have Dwayne Wade going there?
You what?
Did you like the Dwayne Wade signing to Cleveland?
Yes and no. They're going to have so many lineups that they can throw out there depending on the situation. I think it kind of takes away from their three-point shooting, something that they were really good at last year. They're not going to start a lineup with Rose, D. Wade, both starting while Isaiah Thomas is hurt.
They better not.
That's horrible three-point shooting. Right. So they're taking J.R. Smith off the bench and inserting Dwayne Wade. It doesn't exactly help spacing.
No, that's why I didn't like it, because if you ask me, does it help you beat the Warriors, I would say no, and that's, I think, what they really should be all about. Like, that's why I like Jay Crowder, because players like that do help you.
I think Jay Crowder is huge for Cleveland. LeBron's never had like a sidekick wing like that, a big, strong defender. To touch on the Dwayne Wade thing, I think we're kind of underestimating. I think the NBA media as a whole underestimates the power of a presence itself. Like Dwayne Wade as the person, the player, the brand, the superstar. I think players kind of worry about that, to be honest. Even though Dwayne Wade's, 34, 35? I don't know how old he is.
35.
Yeah, 35. He's getting up there in age, but he's still Dwayne Wade. He has an aura about him. Whether that's a locker room presence or guys on the opposing team look at D. Wade and knows his history and knows what he's done. I think that bodes well for D. Wade just as himself.
Oh, I mean, he's still a legend, and I agree with that. And I think in the regular season, we'll see some incredible LeBron Wade oops in a rain night in Orlando. But I mean, I think in the playoffs, especially just the Golden State matchup, it's just like,
It's kind of a redundancy, for sure.
Right, yeah. I mean, Golden State's a different animal. I mean, they have guys on their roster that doesn't give a shit about who Dwayne Wade is. And that's different from when you face regular season teams that have young guys coming up in the league trying to make a spot, and they are going up against D. Wade, and they're like, oh my gosh, D. Wade, that's you.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think, is there a team that you would have preferred him to go to or a better fit for D. Wade?
I was expecting Cleveland the whole time, just because him and LeBron is kind of like a farewell tour thing. I don't know how long Dwayne Wade has in the league left. I mean, he's had some injury problems in the past. So I was expecting that, but it would have been really interesting to see San Antonio also, to be honest. I see kind of Dwayne Wade can handle the ball as he gets older and less explosive. I can kind of see him making a slow transition to being a ball handler more. And with Tony Parker getting so old, I think that'd be a good fit in San Antonio if he would have picked the Spurs.
I would have liked that too. I also would have liked him in the Thunder if he was willing to come off the bench as a second unit ball handler / playmaker.
Yeah, off the bench would be good. But see, that's again, to go to my point of just the aura of a player. I mean, I don't know if you heard Melo's press conference when he got asked if he would be willing to come off the bench.
That was amazing.
He cracked up in the guy's face.
Yeah, he said, who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just Melo. I mean, he's not as good of a player as he once was, but it's still Carmelo Anthony. You can't assume these guys are going to be selfless and just take one for the team and sit the bench when they have an aura about them.
Right. It's more unlikely to happen than happen.
Right.
But thanks for coming on, Ryan. Good talk, and let's do this again soon as the season starts.
Absolutely, Evan, Ryan, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care, Ryan.
Take care, bud. Now, let's get into our final division, the Pacific Division. Final division that we'll be previewing. We'll break down each team, leading scores, burning questions, the usual, going worst to first. And then now, since this is the last division, we'll wrap it up with what we have as our complete playoff picture. Okay, so let's get into it. We'll start worst to first. The worst team in the Pacific Division is the Golden State Warriors. I wrote it wrong. That's not right. I have the Sacramento Kings. I'm giving them 27 wins, 55 losses. What do you have, Ryan?
Okay, so this is where we sort of flip-flop. I actually have the Phoenix Suns as the worst.
Hot take.
I know. It's a big jump, a big leap to make there.
Yeah.
But
they are also bad.
Yeah, so interesting for actually both these teams. Vegas projects both of them to have 28.5 wins. So, it's really a toss-up here who's going to take the last spot in this division.
It's close. Both these teams are unfortunate.
Yeah, to say the least. And they both have, well, I would say, Phoenix is a little bit younger. I guess that's what they have going for it. Sacramento now has a few new additions. They got Zebo, drafted De'Aaron Fox. They got Vince Carter now. It's kind of an interesting addition for them.
The 40 club.
Yeah.
40-40.
So I have a little bit more veteran leadership there. I don't know. I had a really hard time picking between these two. It really could go either way. Who's going to take it? But I think the Kings are going to finish 29-53. I think the Suns are going to finish 27-55. So sort of negligible here.
Okay, so we're close. We think the 25 to 30 range is probably where the Kings will end up. Mm-hmm. This is actually, so not only are these the two worst teams in the Pacific, I think they're the two worst teams in the West.
Yeah.
As a whole. So, and unfortunately for them, they each have to play the Warriors 4 times. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be some rough nights for these teams. So, for the Kings, they actually had one of the more difficult leading scorers to predict of all the teams, I think. Yeah. I am going George Hill with a modest, 15, 16. But I don't know. Who do you have?
I think Buddy Hield, and I'm a little hesitant to say it. I
was considering him.
Yeah, he averaged, was he sort of around 12 last year?
Yeah, I think he was... he struggled a lot with the Pelicans, right. But with the Kings, he seemed to improve a lot, and he was 12.
And he's gonna have the freedom to start pulling it. They're gonna look to. He's part of their future, so they're gonna try to focus on his development more than George Hill. But George Hill's the veteran. You're probably right. He's probably gonna have the most scoring, but. I don't know. I think Buddy could have a year where he gets close to 20 and he could be the leading scorer. So.
I agree. And most NBA teams know who their starters are before camp. This team, the jobs are open during camp, more kind of in a football kind of way.
Right. Let's just try to. So, Buddy Hield will start. George Hill will start. Yes. Bogdanovich, will he start?
They may start Vince Carter at 3. I would not be surprised.
Vince at the 3. Got Willie Cauley-Stein and Zach Randolph at the 5. I don't know.
They could start Sky Labuschagne. Their coach is Dave Yeager, so he's coached Zebo before with the Grizzlies. They'll probably start Zebo at first, and then as the season goes on, they'll play the younger guys more. Speaking of which, so. My burning question for them is, I was kind of shocked that they got both Zach Randolph and Vince Carter for a young team that's trying to grow. These are not old; these are very old players,
dinosaurs.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if they actually have a secret plan of moving them at the deadline to contenders, because people will still want those players for assets. So. Do you think both those players last the full season in Sacramento?
I don't think they last the full season. I think
at least one of them is gone.
One of them's gone. I'd probably guess
Vince. Because Vince can still shoot, and people always want shooting.
Yeah. He'll still be good in the playoffs. Yeah. Zach Randolph's tough defender. That's what he'll give you, but limited scoring.
Get the boards.
Yeah, he'll get on the boards, but I think I would probably lean towards Vince Carter for sure.
Actually, Zebo, I would like your Boston Celtics to give him a call for some boards.
Yeah.
I think that would be an interesting move.
Yeah, and it's still very necessary.
As a backup 5.
Yeah.
I would like that. Yeah, I would just in the Kings just get more young assets. I get the George Hill more as just a leader to De'Aaron Fox and someone who could just finally just be steady at the point guard positions, and they haven't had that since Mike Bibby. Right. So I like that move, but the other ones, I'm interested to see if they move them. Okay, let's talk about Phoenix a little bit. So you had them at 27.
Yeah.
I'll go 4th. I'm a little higher. 30 wins.
Whoa.
Yeah, 52. We both agree their leading scorer should be Devin Booker.
Yeah.
This dude had 70 points in a game last season. His stroke is nice. I guess Bledsoe has a chance as a 20-point scorer to win, but Booker's their defense, they're really bad. They re-signed T.J. Warren. Oh, I like a bit, but I think he would be like a nice six man. He's such an old school player. He's like in the 80s. He like scores on like cuts and random post ups.
Just like very fundamental
transitions.
offense.
Yeah. He's a throwback.
Yeah.
Man, and then up front they're just a mess. They drafted Josh Jackson, but they'll probably still start Alex Len, who's just oof.
Yeah, they still got Tyson Chandler.
Yeah,
Bender, Anthony Bennett, all these guys are.
That's right. They did sign Anthony Bennett. He's still in the league, people. The biggest number one bust maybe ever.
Yeah, maybe.
So my burning question for them is, this offseason we heard tons of rumors that Eric Bledsoe would end up going to Cleveland. Remember, him and LeBron have the same agents. They're close. And my look is they're not going to give up Booker, right? He's their future. Eric Bledsoe is probably then the best tradable asset they have. I wonder if he lasts the season.
Definitely not.
I think they move him in the deadline too.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a top 3 tank team, maybe a top 3 pick here.
Yeah.
So there's really no point in trying to keep some of these guys, and I'm expecting them to start losing fast, and Eric Bledsoe will be gone by the deadline for sure.
Yeah. They hope just they could keep Bledsoe healthy in the meantime, get his trade value up, and then move him. I think he's a good player that's on just a bad team and has struggled with some injuries, but he can help some teams.
Yeah, I mean, he'll definitely go, like, playoff contenders will be looking for him just to add another extra piece that they can either have off the bench, maybe a little extra scoring.
Cleveland call. I wouldn't be surprised if Denver calls. They need a point guard.
Could San
and
Antonio
they're big,
call?
heavy.
Just get a little depth.
San Antonio is in the pitch playoff teams that need a point guard. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, all those teams are in the running. But, yeah, both these teams, look, they'll just be bad this year. So let's go to teams that are moving a little more interesting. Third, I have the Los Angeles Lakers, who have been an absolute dumpster fire for the past 4 years, but things are finally trending up for a once proud franchise.
Vegas projects them to get 33.5 wins. Do you like them over or under that?
I went over. I gave them close, 35 and 47.
Okay.
Love the offseason. Caldwell Pope was a nice signing. Brooke Lopez.
Bogut late signing too.
They got Bogut.
Yeah.
Lonzo Ball was the clear pick in the draft. I am high on Julius Randle. He's another guy who looks shredded this offseason, by the way. I think he could have a breakout year. Not super high on Ingram. This team will still be bad defense, and they're still young, and they're still in the West, but they were historically bad defense last year, not just like for the ever. So if there obviously will be a little better this year. It's hard to do that twice. And Clarkson will be on the bench now, and he's just a killer there. So I think they'll be a little better. I think they'll be a fun team. I like Luke Walton as a coach, but they're still young. They're still growing.
Do you think Lonzo's going to have impact right away, or will it take him a little bit to figure out the NBA game?
I think he'll be pretty good. I think his passing will translate immediately. I wouldn't be surprised if he averages 8, maybe 10 assists a game. Defense, he'll have some rough nights. He's going to get worked. And there'll be some adjustment periods, but I think you'll see him getting better, and I think he'll have a pretty good rookie season. I'm pretty high on him.
So I don't think they're going to get quite as many wins as you think. I think they're going to be closer to 30. Again, not a huge difference, but defense is going to be a huge struggle, as you said before. The West is unforgiving. There's so many great offensive teams in the West that they're just not going to be able to sort of keep up with a lot of teams. I think they're going to be a team, I think, that struggles in the fourth quarter particularly.
Yeah, I could see them hanging around a lot of games and then
losing in the fourth,
because that's what young teams do.
Yeah, that's sort of what I see from them. So as much as LeVar Ball wants them to be a playoff team, I don't think they'll be a playoff team.
He said 50 wins.
50 wins, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think, so they're going to sniff closer to 30. But they'll still be fun. I think they're going to be entertaining.
They'll be fun.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a League Pass team for sure. I mean, maybe West Coast, a little harder to watch them, but...
Right, and I mean they still get national TV love. I'll definitely watch them. I'll honestly not watch a lot of Kings and Suns this year, but I'll watch some Lakers. But at least one of the roughest 4-year stretches a team can have.
Yeah.
Just in terms of and just how bad they were. So it's good to see that they're finally heading the right way. My leading scorer, I'm gonna go with Brook Lopez. Dude's still a 20-a-night guy. People kind of forget about that because he's on bad teams and he gets injured. But if he's healthy, he's like an automatic 20.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be scoring by committee too. Like Brook Lopez will probably do the brunt of it, but it's going to be pretty evenly spread out.
Randall could have some big games and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe Ingram takes a step, even though his rookie year was oof.
Yeah.
So then, my burning question is from the two young guys, how much improvement will we see from Ingram and Randall? Randall, I'm high on. I think he can put it all together. A big part of why he was limited minutes is his conditioning. I think he's got that up this offseason. He can pass. He's super good at just taking it to the hole and just overpowering people. He's strong. And I like his game, and I think now with conditioning you have a little bit more of a motor. And then with Ingram just looks lost and so weak. I mean, it seems silly to say only a second year, but it's a big year for him.
Yeah.
Especially with the Lakers having master plans next offseason. Yeah. So he's got to show some stuff. People, I told you this is not the next Durant. That was a ridiculous comparison. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, getting into the good teams now. The Los Angeles Clippers. Very interesting team. Traded Chris Paul to Houston. Got back Lou Williams, Pat Beverly, Sam Dekker, Montrezl Harrell. They also got Gallinari from the Nuggets. Big offseason. They still have Blake and DJ up front. A team with a lot of talent and a team with a lot of questions. And that could be a team that's tough to predict. Some things can go right, some can go wrong. They have more room, a lot of variables here.
Right. Vegas thinks they're going to get 43.5 wins. So what do you...
I went slightly over at 45.
Yeah, I'm at 45-37. So I think we both have them in the 7th seed. Is that right?
We do. We both have them making the playoffs, and they'll be part of that 4-team battle for 2 with the Pelicans, Jazz, and Blazers. Yeah. The question mark, Blake can still miss a little time this season. So his health is always a question mark. And then just how often do they want to play Gallo at the 4, Blake at the 5, DJ's minutes?
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of experimenting in the first few weeks of the season with the lineups.
Right. We think they're going to start Austin Rivers at the 2 and Pat Beverly at the 1. But remember they got the European sensation Milos Teletovic. Teletovic, something like that. And he's a great pick and roll guy, but his defense is rough from what I've read. So they might start him and Beverly at the 2, still bringing super 6-man Lou Williams off the bench. Austin Rivers may even play some backup 3. Defense that could work. He's a strong guy, but it's tough. So they have a lot of lineups to figure out. Plus Blake's health, but I'm a Blake believer when he's healthy. I think he's super talented. People forget how good of a passer he is, and now he's a lead dog. We'll talk a little bit more of that later. So I think more things work out than don't, and that's why I give him 45 wins and the 7th seed in the West. Leading scorer, I've got Blake. Do you have
Blake
the
Griffin,
same?
Yep, same.
Yeah, so when healthy, he should be in the 20 to 25 range, with 8 rebounds, 5 assists. I kind of wonder if he's starting flirting with the 3 ball a little bit. I wonder if he can get a consistent one of those. If he does, wow, because he's still a really good athlete, but he's not remember prime Blake, how ridiculous he was? The injuries have kind of taken a toll, so I kind of wonder if he switches to a more, shooting, fundamental kind of game.
And as obviously the years gone by, he's expanded his game. He's probably good from 25 in, but it's just that extra.
Right.
That 3-pointer is a little tough.
Exactly. So, and then my burning question for them is, how will Blake handle being the lead dog? Because that was no question. Chris Paul is an alpha male. And that was his team, and his passing kind of made up for the lack of spacing between Blake and DJ, and was a leader. So I just wonder how Blake's going to handle it now. DeAndre Jordan, you kind of see being a leader as well of all of these other guys, and Blake having a more prominent role. They're just an intriguing team to watch because you're not quite sure what you're going to get with them like you are with most NBA teams. So that makes them interesting, but
they have so many solid veteran players
right,
who
they're pretty deep.
Yeah, they're such a deep team that you have to just give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll be able to figure it out maybe later in the season than earlier. But
right, there'll be some tinkering, and Blake getting right will be big. They also have Willie Reed, the backup center. I like that move.
Showtime Willie Reed.
Yeah, he's a good backup big.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once they get everything settled in terms of lineups, they'll pull it out, and they're good enough. They'll be in the playoffs, but this team's ceiling is a first round exit.
Yeah.
But definitely an intriguing team. So now let's talk about obviously the cream of the crop, the Golden State Warriors. I think, what do you say Vegas had them at?
Vegas has them 67.5 wins, so a lot. Wins.
I have them right at 67, which is 10 games ahead of the 2 seed, which is Houston in my predictions. That's ridiculous for people who don't know. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny because I think you and I probably have the same thing where Golden State is head and shoulders above everyone. I actually have them at 69-13, so even more than 10 wins above Houston, who I've had 55. And then there's a logjam from 2 to 5.
Right, they're all very close, and I think the Warriors are going to be better this year, which is scary.
Yeah, I get that impression too. I honestly wanted to give them more, just because I don't think they're going to get that. They're not going to go for the record necessarily because they've already done that, and they know it's not the be all and end all. They know winning in championships where they need to be, so they're going to take some games off. They're going to have some games where they don't, play their starters full minutes and they rest people. Fortunately for them, they're so deep that they can still win even with their bench, which not a lot of teams can do.
They'll probably secure the 1 seed with a month left in the season.
Yeah, for sure.
And from there, they'll do some coasting. Maybe not full out rest, but they'll definitely start staggering minutes and maybe punt a few games.
Yeah, and again, they did not lose anyone. I guess McGee, right? Was he the only one?
That's it, and they got 2 good shooters in Swaggy P and Caspi.
Yeah, so for all we expect, they should be a better team next year.
And plus, they got Durant's won a championship now. The chemistry, they figured out their lineups, and they're just gonna.
They're Golden State.
They're just gonna dominate.
Yeah. Last year there really wasn't another team who was even close to being competitive. This year will probably be.
They swept the Western playoffs.
Yeah. I don't really see that changing drastically. I know Houston and OKC revamped their teams, but it still seems like they're going to dominate the West. So
I will say they will not sweep the West again.
Yeah, they won't sweep in the playoffs.
Teams, they'll get a little more feist this year because I think just other teams have gotten better.
Yeah.
I think Houston, OKC, the Spurs are all capable of taking a game off of them, but it's still the Warriors' world, and we're still living in it.
Yeah.
Durant coming off of just a horrible offseason, but a superb finals performance. I think he'll be the leading scorer this year, and he can be and even though with great teammates, I would not be shocked if he's the MVP because he is that good. And then so it's just the only question for them is just how much will they rest, and their main goal is just really keeping everyone healthy, and because they're just so much better. They're here and everyone's here. All right, so that wraps up our Pacific division. So now let's go through. We've done all the divisions with the playoff order. Want to go East first?
Yeah, let's start with East.
Let's go worst, not just playoff. I have the worst team in the East as the Chicago Bulls. Then I have the Hawks, then the Knicks, then the Nets, then the Pacers, then the Magic, then the Pistons.
Playoff teams?
Playoff teams.
And let's do with the record, too. What you think.
Okay. Bad teams, don't care about the record.
Yeah,
Good teams, 8 Sixers, 40 wins. 7, Heat, 44. 6, Hornets, 45. All very close. 5, Raptors, 46. 4, Bucks, 47. 3, Wizards, 50. 2, Celtics, 51. 1, Cavs, 55.
Yeah, I have the exact same order. I have actually a few less games. I think it's going to be closer up at the top than I think Cleveland is going to have 53, Boston 51, Washington 49, Milwaukee 48, Toronto 46, Charlotte 44, Miami 43, Philly 41. So,
Okay,
yeah.
but we got the same matchups.
Same matchups.
A few discrepancies with records, but
Yeah.
about the same. West, just bottom up. Sacramento, Phoenix, Dallas, Lakers, Grizzlies, Blazers, Jazz. Then the playoffs teams, 8 seed Pelicans, 44 wins. 7 Clippers, 45. 6 Nuggets, 48. 5 Wolves, 50. 4 Thunder, 52. 3 Spurs, 53. 2 Rockets, 57. 1 the Dubs, 67.
I think we have some slight variance here. I actually have the Jazz at the 8 seed with 43 wins. Got the Clippers at the 7 with 45. Denver, 47 wins. T-Wolves at the 5 with 50 wins. San Antonio at the 4 instead of OKC with 51. I'm going to regret saying that later. It'll bite me in the ass. I'm sure about that.
Yeah.
But I'm picking them OKC to finish 3rd with 52 wins. Houston, 55 wins. Golden State, 69. Nice.
Okay, so we would have the same playoff matchups in the East. It would be the Cavs versus the Sixers, the Celtics versus the Heat. Ooh, I like that. The Wizards versus the Hornets, and the Bucks Raptors round 2.
Yep.
Bucks having home court advantage. Then I would have the Warriors versus the Pelicans, the Twin Towers. Then I would have the Rockets versus the Clippers. Ooh, that would be fun with the CP3 dynamic. I would have the Spurs and the Nuggets, Jokic versus Pop. That's fun. And then the Thunder versus the Wolves, which would be sweet.
And then, so for my matchups, I have Golden State versus the Utah Jazz, Houston versus the Clippers, like you have. I got OKC versus Denver, so that's different. And San Antonio versus the T-Wolves instead of
The
OKC.
old versus the young.
Yeah, it'll be a fun little
I like
first-round
that.
matchup.
I like that. All right, so that wraps it up. You have our official playoff predictions on tape, on record. We'll stick to it throughout the season unless, horrible injuries happen. And we have all our division previews now wrapped up. So that wraps it up for today. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Dial It Up Podcast. And have a great weekend, everyone. Bye. Take care.
Keep a gold chain on my neck, fly as a jet. Boy, better treat me with respect. Keep a gold chain on my neck, fly as a jet. Boy, better treat me with respect.